All right, this is David Wardlow with the Houston-Galveston Area Council. If somebody wouldn't mind just letting me know if you can hear me all right before we get started. All right, great. My apologies, this is a new microphone. Left the other one at home, so you might hear a little more background noise from the air conditioning and that kind of thing. So my apologies if that makes it difficult to hear. Just let me know and we'll try to make an adjustment. Again, welcome to HGAC's 2015 Tip Call for Projects. This is the second of our weekly Q&A sessions. I have just a few slides to cover today. We are going to give you a peek at the online application. I'll tell you it's a work in progress. We received feature complete delivery, you could say Friday or today, and we're hammering away at it, trying to break it and make sure that everything works as it's supposed to when we send it out to everybody to fill in. We may ask a few of you to demo it out for us and just see if you guys can break it too, because we always never know quite what folks are going to try to attempt to enter in the application. All right. So again, same agenda as last week. I'll spend most of our time hopefully on Q&A at the end of the session. But we'll just cover the schedule for our Q&A sessions and give you a brief update on the application materials. I'll show you the website, and then we'll get into the Q&A. Again, we're holding these to try to provide y'all with an opportunity to participate in the process and let us know any questions you may have any discussion that will be useful. Again, the format of these is pretty informal, so if you have a question, you can enter it. You can type it in to the interface. I believe there's a questions box section on the GoToWebinar interface. Otherwise, you can also, under the attendees panel, you should be able to raise your hand, and then I can unmute your line and you can ask a question verbally. Again, we're going to hold these every Monday at 2 p.m. except for, in fact, next week, which will be Tuesday. So those of you that have registered for this series, you should already have that set on your Outlook calendars as being Tuesday, November 4th at 2 p.m. for next week. And we will continue through the end of the submission time period, and we'll cover some potential updates to that in just a moment. As I mentioned, we do have the application website. It is fully functional now. You could fill everything in. It should accept all of the input that's required to complete an application. Of course, we always see some bugs and some issues, so we're trying to QA/QC that as much as possible before we send it out to everybody. We think we'll be making that notification to folks on Wednesday, on the 29th. That is a tentative date, just in case we run into some particular issues. There are a couple issues that our web folks have to discuss internally as to where to save attachments and things like that that might delay us if they have to do some back-end work. But I think that should be ready to go for middle of the week, and everybody can get started starting to enter in the information in our system. I will note, while we don't have any problem with folks using the system to consolidate all their information, we do have, and I'll show you a link to this in just a moment, the Excel version of the application questions. So you can begin compiling that information and storing it locally on your own systems, just in case we had a failure on our end. We want to make sure we don't take down everybody's application right at the very beginning. The recordings from the last two, the original webinar and our first weekly session, have been posted to the website, and their videos are actually hosted on our YouTube channel. We have a specific playlist established for the tip call videos. So there's 2 in there right now. Obviously that will grow, and I'll show you where you can access that as well. We are, as always, evaluating the schedule implications of not having the application up at the beginning of the period. I will tell you what I'm looking at right now is we had in order to give us at HGAC enough time to provide assistance to sponsors that may need it. So basically by Thanksgiving, you need to request that assistance around the 24th of November. It's a little early in the week than Thanksgiving Day, I think. That's the time period at which we'll reassess and make any announcements about an adjustment to the deadline, just to make sure we do it once, and we're not going to push it out one time and then discover we need to push it out because of our own needs and processing information or something like that. We want to give everybody adequate opportunity to complete the application, but at some point we gotta have a cutoff time. Again, for more information, that's just the basic TIP website, on which there is a link to the TIP call information, as well as the existing document and amendments and all of that kind of thing. And again, the main contacts for HGAC is myself, and my email address and phone number are listed there. And Catherine, of course, will facilitate any information or support or guidance that you need from TxDOT. I will say, before we get into the website, I do want to speak to TxDOT and the ENV folks. There are a number of new categorical exclusions that come online in about a week. On November 5th, in fact, is when they become effective. And it may be useful for us to have a little webinar session or something for folks to tune in and see how they might use those. I think it could have a particular impact on our call. A couple of the new CEs are pretty broad and would allow for a number of activities that wouldn't necessarily have fit in a CE before. They might now be able to do that. So we'll try to set something up. If we are able to do that pretty quickly, we'll again let you all know that I've already registered, and we'll blast it out to our committees as well. All right, that's all the slides I've got for you. I'm going to shift over to the website now, and I'll refresh this just because I think it's been up for a little while. Okay, can everybody see the website okay? Okay, very good. In addition to the background noise of the printer, I think that's going on. All right. Again, this is our website. We'll have much more information posted here in the next couple of days, including all of the application information and the guidance document. We're updating that based on the website application as we're making tweaks to it. And again, I noticed that the webinar video and the presentation are posted before, as well as our weekly Q&A webinars. You can register for this series, which all of you have done, but it allows folks that have not already done so to find it pretty easily, as well as watch the recordings. And this link would take you to the playlist where there are currently, again, 2 recordings, the first of which is the application workshop, and then the weekly Q&A from last week. I'll go ahead and close that one as well. If you really are interested, of course, we have a bunch of other playlists. All of the Mobility Now information and videos are posted here as well. Videos for our 2040 RTP public outreach activities, our Brown Bag Lunch series. Some of you have been able to join us for those. All that stuff is here on the same channel. All right. So again, we walked through this the other week, the pre-application, but I'm going to go ahead and fill one out just so you can see the tweaks we've made to it. Again, we used to here have a project sponsor field. We took that out because the next page captures the primary contact information for the agency, and we're expecting the person who's filling out the form to enter their information here. So I'll go ahead and enter my name in here. All right. Okay. And again, the primary agency information. So in this case, let's mark it down as HGAC as the potential sponsor. We'll say Alan Clark as the primary contact. And then we'll just put in, just to make sure that I get all of the emails that come back from this. Okay, and then we're in the process of reordering a few of these questions to streamline this a bit. This page you won't see the partnership question, which is really agency contact information, will be moved to the previous page. So at the end of the primary, it'll ask you that question if there's a secondary or tertiary agency involved in developing or implementing the project. Right, as you saw before, it's context sensitive, so if you say yes, then it provides the additional input area. We'll leave that as no for now. And then these other two questions will be moved to the next page. But again, it's asking if the project had been spent in a prior call. We did add a feature here so that you can indicate for us when the most recent call was. It might be a project that you submitted in the previous TIP call, the 2013 to 2016. The one before that may be true for a lot of pedestrian bicycle projects. And then all the way back, and then we put a catch-all here for anything that might be older than the 2000 call. But that helps us try to find any information that may have been previously submitted, documentation of public outreach, all that kind of stuff. We'd like to have a track back to the last time we considered a funding request. And again, this indication of asking for is the application seeking more than $150,000 is a question we'll move to the next page. Okay, I'll move on to the, you got to fill it out. So there we go. So project title, just for the sake of fun, let's call this Sub-Regional Planning. And then it asks you the CE question. We've moved the what type of CE to the full application. I'll show you that in a moment. So you just have to indicate here whether it would qualify or not. In this case, a planning activity would. And the project is, yes, exempt from conformity or regional emissions analysis. And then it'll ask us what type of project is appropriate here. Just for the sake of fun, well, let's just stick with the roadway mobility one. We've also asked for a couple of ID-related information items here, so that in the case you already have a project in the plan, or you know it used to be in the plan, we'd like to know which MPO IDs or control section job CSJ numbers TxDOT might have issued to the project. This will help us track back again and make sure that we're not duplicating entries in our database, and we're able to access all the most pertinent information we might already have. We might have communications stored from project sponsors and other interested parties relating to a project, something like that. There is a link here to TELUS. Some of you all are familiar with the TELUS system. It allows you to enter in. You can leave the credential information alone. We updated this after the amendments last month, so it is up to date. And then you can search for a project. It's not the most user-intuitive system, but it is effective. So let's just say we're looking for a project on, let's say, FM 518, just as an example. And we knew that we'll just leave it like that, and you can see how many projects it will bring up for us. It includes all projects back to the beginning of the database, just for those of you that haven't used TELUS before. So it'll include all the projects that are completed that might have been canceled during the plan update in 2011 due to fiscal constraint. All of those kind of, if we have a duplicate, it'll show as a hold, because just as an example, so you might be able to pick up and just say, okay, I'm going to resubmit this widening from the Missouri County line to 45, and I now have my MPO ID that I can enter in on the application page. And this is a yes/no. We recognize a number of projects, particularly those that TxDOT might be preparing on a major corridor, might have more than one listing in our existing database or more than one CSJ. So it's really just a text field. We've indicated please separate your entries with commas. So, just as an example, just something like that, so that you can enter more than one, but it'll allow us to look up that information. Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward and intuitive. So I'm just going to go ahead and say no on that one. Okay, and it will let you know that you've successfully submitted your application, and it will provide you with a link back to completing another pre-application. If you have any questions, direct those to the general tip at h-gac.com email address. Before I move off of that section, does anybody have any questions about the pre-application form? Okay, I see a question here from Trent in Pearland, asking about how do you know if a project is exempt from conformity or regional emissions analysis. We'll provide you with a link to the document that TxDOT uses for this. However, we understand there may be some questions folks have, and it's always okay to ask us. We can usually pretty quickly tell you whether or not a project is going to be subject to conformity analysis. Again, this is an area where we're trying to streamline the process, and I'm assuming the question is being asked for an added capacity project. We're trying to narrow down the network or the number of roads that must go through that conformity process or must be consistent with it. So we'll provide you with a link to the map so you can see if the roadway you're talking about is on that map. Then you need to go to the next step. If not, you know that it's okay and it's a not regionally significant project. TxDOT's information is good about identifying types of activities that might be exempt. For example, intersection work, safety treatments, that kind of thing, turn lanes, ITS improvements, signage, bicycle pedestrian projects. All those kinds of investments are exempt from emissions analysis. And then Lisa is asking a question about how to get to TELUS. I'll show you two ways. The first of which, let's see if it lets me go back. It looks like, it's not wanting me to do that. So let me try to click through here. All right, here we go. It's in the pre-application. Right underneath the question of have any MPOID numbers been assigned to the project, there is a link to search the HGAC project database right there. And then I will also show you another way to get to that. Off of our tip page, let me go back to the main tip page here. You'll notice there's a box down here for project development resources. If you follow that, Isaac Ramirez helped put this together for us. And it's a collection of information we have that's pertinent to the environmental process, one of which is the TELUS link here. I guess that's the 4th link down on the RTP. We need to update this list. We obviously have a new tip that we can provide a link to instead. They take you to the same place. And again, this login information, you don't need to change it. It works with the guest login. It's a read-only system. The only piece of real advice I give you is once you click on search, you'll probably be searching by street name, which is a drop-down list. It might take a moment to populate that. Let's look at FM 1093, for example. And click select. All right. So this is the project way on the western end of the corridor out in Fort Bend County. The other piece of advice is don't use the view link. Use the edit link. That will allow you to see the complete project record here. It looks like you can enter an information in. In fact, it'll let you type, but it doesn't commit any of that information to our database, so don't worry. It's locked down. But then you can actually see the project history, for example, all the specifics on project location information, number of lanes, the existing description we have in our database, the project status, if the project is in the TIP, what kind of funding is provided here. And the other thing that might be sometimes interesting is the attachments tab. Sometimes has pertinent documents from the project record. If we receive something related to the project, assigned AFA, for example, that got forwarded to us, environmental documents sometimes, in particular the notification that environmental requirements have been met. So a CE was issued, or a FONSI or a ROD had been issued for the project and it's environmentally clear. We typically have a letter from TxDOT attached to the project. Okay. If it's all right, I'm going to move on to the actual application. I'll note again, just so that you can see. Let's see. You will receive an email confirmation saying thank you for submitting your pre-application. It'll give you the project title. It'll give you a unique application ID for that project alone, along with a password. We are able to reset the password. If you happen to lose this email, you can call us and we can give you the application ID and you can reset your own password. But you can't choose what your password is going to be. It's a randomly generated password. I would say make sure you grab the whole thing when you copy it. It can have some, the special characters, including periods and underscores, some characters that sometimes look like you kind of miss them on the front or the back end. So make sure you grab the whole thing. So in this case we have 311, and I'll copy the password. Then we'll come back to the application website. And here's where I indicated you can reset your password. If you click on that, it'll ask you to enter in your application ID. You click on reset password, it'll send you another email to the person that was registered that is associated with that application ID with an updated password. Okay. And we covered some of this last week with the Excel form. Again, it's really the same information. It's just in the application on the website itself. So most of this, I think, should just be review for folks. We are looking at upping the character max on some of these fields, just because we know some people might already have an environmental document that they want to pull a paragraph from. It might be a little longer. We're, again, trying to be pretty straightforward and as streamlined as possible in identifying the project need, purpose, and description. So this does not need to be lengthy. It's not War and Peace. You don't need to identify every last purpose or need that the project might be satisfying. We're really looking for the core purpose of the project, and that goes for the major investments as well. We expect to see a little bit more there. I think we have double the character max because we anticipate there'll probably be 1, 2, or maybe 3 areas that are covered in need and purpose. But for these other investment projects, they really can be very straightforward. For addressing a congestion issue, we need to talk about the congestion need and need to talk about the relief that's going to be provided by the project. Same thing with safety or economic development or whatever the primary need and purpose might be. Okay, so again, that's looking for some main text there. Description of the improvement, so give us the facility, the limits, and the description. We'll parse out from that the actual fields that we need. I will note you might see on my browser these windows, you can make them bigger and smaller. That's a browser dependent feature, so your browser may not have those. I'm using Google Chrome. I think we've tested it in Chrome and Firefox and Microsoft Internet Explorer. We haven't gone back with, I think, too many older versions of IE, of Internet Explorer. So if you run into any issues, please let us know. But a reasonably up-to-date browser should be able to handle. It's a pretty straightforward website, frankly, so there's nothing particularly complex or unique about it. So it should work pretty well. Again, in addition to the proposed improvement, please identify any alternatives that might have been considered. This could be as simple as, if we're talking about a safety treatment, no other alternatives were considered, or it could be the no build is the alternative that's considered by default, right? Because your alternative to doing something is not doing something. All of these fields need to be filled in. I will tell you that you can hit next once you're in the full application. It will allow you to advance and come back to fill in information later. It's not linked to each page. It's just when you hit that submit application button that it will check all of your responses and make sure you've completed the application. I will highlight again back on that first page with the narrative information. This is what needs to be filled out along with the I believe it is on must be on the third page, the location information, the GIS or PDF map information. That's really what we need to be able to provide some assistance in the evaluation of the projects. So again, these are pretty straightforward questions. Has a scoping meeting been conducted? If you say yes, context-sensitive thing will pop up and ask you to attach a scoping checklist if you had your meeting with TxDOT, or the meeting summary if you had some other type of scoping meeting with FTA, for example. So for now, I'll say no. Oh, sorry, scrolling too fast. My mouse is going a little crazy. Again, it'll ask you what type of documentation. If you're in the other investments, you don't get a choice here because you've already affirmatively stated that it's a CE. It will ask you what CE does the project scope qualify for here. We're going to add a couple of links to the list of existing CEs, as well as I mentioned before, the Federal Register notice that has the new CEs in it. They are already populated in this list. These are pretty long lists because they cover quite a range of activity. So for example, you'll see at the end of the Federal Highways C list, so these are the activities that require the least amount of documentation. They're presumed to not have a significant impact. You can see, I think it's from 24 on, because before under Map 21 we had this new CE on projects that receive less than $5 million of federal funding. We now have a good collection of others. So geotech, probably not going to be applicable to anybody submitting a project here. Environmental restoration or abatement activities. And then we get into the ones that you may be interested in. Modernization of a highway which meets the constraints in paragraph E. Again, that federal highway document will have that information in it. And mostly these are constraints on what you can do and still qualify for the C list. So it's a little bit of a jump to hop through, but kind of like these others that talked about activities that take place entirely within the existing operational right-of-way. There's some definitions and constraints applied to that. Then we also have highway safety or traffic operations improvements. So this would cover typically a lot of intersection work or interchange work. Potentially some grade separations might fit in there. Bridge rehabilitation, reconstruction, or replacement. And all three of these, the C26, 27, and 28, are actually listed on the D list. You'll see them right here. They're D1, 2, and 3. The D list requires a little more documentation for them, but they, if you meet the constraints under paragraph E, then you're a C list, and you can even use less documentation than you would otherwise need. There's a couple here for ferries. I'm not assuming anybody will have a ferry project, but the list is complete. Under the C list, there were a couple that were added here as well. Again, really talking about projects that are associated with some other investments, so bridge removal that's associated with a facility realignment. If I'm realigning a light rail or rail line or something like that and need to move a bridge, that's where that would go. Preventive maintenance for culverts and to the actual channel for drainage, again associated with a typical transit project, as well as geotechnical and other site investigations. So I think hopefully most of you are becoming more familiar with how these CEs operate and how you navigate that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us or Catherine, and we can help get you in contact with the right folks. I do see a question here from Andy. I'll cover it a little bit in a moment. That is a function that our folks are working on now. Can you print or save the information as you enter it, or that you enter at the end? When you want to hit your submit application, it'll give you the option to print, and what it'll bring up is basically one page with all of your answers in it that you can save to a PDF, print out, whatever you'd like. A link to that document, that full completed application, will also come to you on the confirmation email, so that you can come back, or if you tried to log in to the system again, it would also give you that link as well. So you can come back and review what's in there, but there is a big fat warning on there that if you don't, if you want to continue to edit it, don't hit the submit application. All right. So in addition to the CEs, we ask for core permits or other permits that may be required. It's a yes/no. If you hit yes, it'll ask you to describe what permits might be necessary and the timeline established to acquire them. It'll ask you for the date for the 30% design milestone. And again, you got to fill out everything here. So for us, again, it was a planning study, so we'll pick C1. It's an activity that does not lead directly to construction. And we'll say it does not need any permits. And then here we'll just put in a generic 12/1/2014, just as an example here. Will it require any property? No. But again, if you hit yes, it's context sensitive, so those additional questions that are related to right-of-way then become active. So you'll need to enter how many parcels remain to be acquired and what date you'll have a completed acquisition necessary to construct the project. So we'll say no to that. And same thing with utility. This is a yes/no if the evaluation has been completed. We did want to know, even if you say yes or no, what the process is for handling those. So this is again just a carryover from last time. And if something is not applicable, you can just enter in not applicable. This will become more obvious later in the application. You do need to fill in every box. So there may be some questions where you answer no and you're not expecting any points. Some rationale there would be great, but and you always have to put something in. So you can put NA or C answer or something in there, just to make sure that the value is filled in. I'm going to copy that because we'll probably use that later on. Will the project improve or significantly affect another's infrastructure? If yes, describe the effect, and then please provide an attachment to document that. Again, if you hit no, it's not going to ask you those questions. Describe any upcoming public involvement activities. This one's active for everybody. You don't have to have an attachment. It's just if you have one, you could just say see attachment. We are really looking for a summary, a brief summary, not necessarily the complete file from a public meeting that was held 6 years ago. A description of, we took the basic schematic out to the city of, let's say, Bel Air, and had some dialogue with their constituents. Outreach to U.S. reps and state reps was conducted as well on these dates. That's much more useful to us than just attaching the giant 500-page summary. Hopefully useful to the sponsors as well. And then we do have a blob here for any other useful information. What I'm noting here is on this one, this is broken, there's an upload box that should be here that you can attach any other relevant information to project readiness. You can describe it and give us an attachment. So that's where any other information you can kind of bundle it up into a PDF and attach it there. So again, I'll put in something just so that it allows us to submit the application at the end. Okay, here's the map location question, and again, this and the narrative information are what we need to get started with any assistance to project sponsors. So this is important. We have noted here, uploaded files are limited to certain formats. If you have something that doesn't fit that, you can let us know. We might be able to make an adjustment on the back end to allow that file type. And right now we're looking at attachments individually being no larger than 10 megabytes a piece. That doesn't include all of the attachments in your application, just each one. It can't exceed 10 megabytes individually. If that looks like it's going to be a problem, if you've got a schematic or something like that, let us know, and we can either receive it in an alternative way, or we can possibly talk to our website folks about increasing that limit. We wanted to make sure that there's some cap on there so that we didn't suddenly consume all the storage space on our web server, and our general business of the agency became impacted. So, all right. Okay, and then it'll ask you again what's the most appropriate cost analysis. So for this, we'll pick none of the above. I need to talk to Philip about that, because this is limited to the 3 options. And then you will choose your file, search for it, and we'll just stick something in there just so you can see it works, and hit upload. And I'll let you know that you've successfully uploaded the attachment. I'll also show you, for example, we're asking for please describe the analysis you've conducted. So we'll just grab that Word document. If you don't hit upload and you attempted to save your application, sorry, this is a long page, in process, or hit submit, it'll get the same error. It'll warn you that you've basically got an attachment that's not yet uploaded, and you have to go back up and make sure that you hit upload. Okay. All right. And then this is getting into the questions for the other investment roadway mobility. I'm not going to walk through all of these. We're just going to answer some stuff in here just to get it complete. We'll just see. All right, does it include construction of? And this is all the rest of the questions. Bike. ITS. This has come out of a regional plan or study. And then you can provide the website location or upload the document. And then is it identified in the thoroughfare plan? Okay. And then you hit save in the interim, and it'll let you know that you've successfully saved your application. Again, if you stop just there after you've saved it, you can leave and come back and log in again and continue to upload. You can replace your uploaded documents. So if you wanted to pick a different file, for example, you can just upload another document, and it replaces the one that you previously had attached in that location. Okay, but assuming you've got it all completely filled out, then you'll just hit submit, and it'll give you a warning saying that, hey, just a warning, once you hit submit and it's completed, you can no longer edit your application.
Thank you for calling HGAC.
Okay. All right, and then there's our application confirmation. and you'll see that it just tells you that everything's been submitted. If you have any other applications, you can come back to the application page to continue filling out other applications. I do see a follow-up from Andy. He had asked earlier about being able to print or save information that you enter, about a partial before final submission. I'll have to talk to our web guys about that. I'm guessing probably not. The feature kind of runs once you've entered everything in to generate basically a separate form that has all of your entry information in it as one big long page that you can export. But I'll ask them about whether they can make that available based on a partially filled out application or not. We kind of want to make sure that it's locked down, it's read only, and it really represents what the agency had submitted for the application, so that you have a record of what you actually had submitted to HGAC. All right. At this point, that's all I had to review with you guys today. I wasn't sure if you all had any other questions that you wanted to have covered. Again, please feel free to enter in a question into the question box. I guess out of curiosity, since I'm not seeing this through the audience view, can you actually see everybody else's questions? No. Okay. For next week, I'll look and see if there's a way to make those just published to everybody. I think if I... Yeah, we'll see about trying to add that in, but I'm not sure if that's possible. I've tried to kind of repeat verbally at least the questions that come up. All right. Are there any other questions? Or again, you can raise your hand, and I can unmute your line, and you can verbally ask a question. All right, I tried to answer that last question and send it to everybody. I'm not sure if that made it visible to anybody else. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I guess that did not make it visible to everybody else. We may try something else.
Okay. Good. Sounds good. So how's everything else going?
Okay, Lisa, I think you saw the question response because you asked the question, but for some reason it's not allowing others to see the response. Lisa's asked a question about more formal guidance, and that will be posting along with the link to the application on our website. So we have the actual, it matches up with what you're going to fill out to have you give you a little more formal guidance that I think you're seeking. It's really not going to stray from the summary, so if you've been preparing your application based on that, really where it's going to provide a little more guidance is in the benefit cost area, for example. But other than that, it's going to be, we've tried to make it as straightforward a process as possible. I'm sure there's some adjustments and improvements to be made for the next time, but we'll start there. Okay, another question from the TxDOT district. Yes, it allows one document for each area, right? So for each location where it's asking you for an attachment, let me see. Okay, there we go. It's not going to let me do it, but you can at least see. You can pick one file for each area, and you can replace that. So if you just came back through this application, hit Choose File again, selected a different document, and clicked on Upload, it would replace that. I think now it should be locked down. Well, let's see. I'm guessing it's going to blow up and give me an error message. So let's just grab something here. Hit Upload. Oh, well, guess it took it. Maybe. I'll have to check with the web guys and see if it uploaded that or not. But you can see it replaced the field here, so you can at least, particularly depending on how you've named your files, that could be useful, particularly for those that have multiple applications. If you name your files kind of iteratively with the project title or the ID somewhere in there, and you know this is the BCA for project whatever, then you'll be able to confirm that that file is what you had attached. Okay, any other questions?
Last time, you just raise your hand, you never know what you're going to get.
And yes, once the application is out there, all of the related attachments and templates will be posted as well. So the BCA templates and stuff like that will all be posted over the next day or two. So by all means, give us a question. If you don't see something by the end of the week, you can give me a holler. There's probably been some delay, but we'll try to send out a note to everybody if we get into Thursday this week and we don't have it posted. We'll send you a note just so that everybody's aware of what the delay is. But I do not anticipate that at this point. All right, not seeing any other questions and nobody's hand is raised, I'll go ahead and close our webinar. Thank you all very, very much for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Hopefully you all have some practice and experience with the application, and you'll have lots of questions and feedback for us to help you guys prepare your stuff. So again, thank you very much.